Halle Berry has won an Oscar, co-starred in a James Bond movie, and played 2 comic book stars, but she's also missed out on some roles throughout her career, both famous and infamous.
Truth is, I have completely exhausted all of my options.
Ryan Reynolds has played superheroes, A-list action stars, and romantic comedy leading men, but he hasn't always been the top choice among the actor pool.
Well, that's just lazy writing.
Rachel Weisz has won an Oscar and starred in multiple genre franchises, but she's also missed out on some memorable roles, from Penny Lane to Bridget Jones.
Hampton encourages me to cultivate my curiosity.
Berry came from competition in pageants in Ohio when she was cast alongside Leah Remini in her first series, the Who's the Boss spin-off Living Dolls in 1989. Her real breakout, though, came a few years later, courtesy of Spike Lee. Berry first auditioned to play Wesley Snipes' wife in Lee's 1991 relationship drama Jungle Fever, but was able to convince the director she would be a better fit as crack addict Vivian. A year later, Berry nailed her audition in a supporting role in Boomerang, and director Reginald Hudlin and Eddie Murphy never saw another actress for the part.
Well, let me tell you one great thing about me, all right? I've got a heart.
In 1993, though, Berry battled for and lost the role of Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It to Angela Bassett, who earned an Oscar nomination for her portrayal of the legendary R&B singer. Berry also missed out on another opportunity a year later when she passed on an action movie called Speed. Berry has said, in her defense, the bus never left the parking lot in the version of the script she read. Sandra Bullock ended up in the role, and the movie made $350 million worldwide at the box office.
I can't do this by myself, please.
Also around that time, Berry was among several actresses who auditioned for Mia Wallace in Pulp Fiction, but lost out to Uma Thurman. Berry also auditioned for Robin in Waiting to Exhale, as did Robin Givens, but director Forrest Whitaker decided to go with a lesser-known actress in Layla Rashawn. Speaking of Rashawn, for 1998's Why Do Fools Fall in Love, Berry was originally cast as Amira and Vivica A. Fox as Zola, but Berry was later switched to Zola, Fox to Mickey, and Rashawn came on for Amira. In 2000, Berry was considered for Lucy Liu's role in Charlie's Angels, but instead turned her focus to X-Men, beating out Janet Jackson and Mariah Carey for Storm after Angela Bassett and Jada Pinkett Smith passed.
Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning?
A year later, Bassett also passed on Monsters Ball, as did Vanessa Williams. That cleared the way for Berry to take the role all the way to the Oscars, becoming the first black woman to win Best Actress. Berry immediately followed up the drama with 2002's Die Another Day, and there were even plans for a Jinx spin-off at one point. Also in 2002, Berry was considered for Men in Black 2, as was Jennifer Lopez, but both lost out to Laura Flynn Boyle.
I lose, you lose, I win, everything keeps spinning.
Berry did sign on for The Adventures of Pluto Nash, but had to withdraw due to its schedule interfering with her wedding to singer Eric Benet. Lopez passed on the role before Rosario Dawson stepped in. Another disaster was averted a year later after Berry committed to Geely opposite Ben Affleck, but had to drop out over scheduling conflicts with X2. This time, Lopez signed on to replace her, subsequently launching the notorious Bennifer relationship and a box office bomb, making $7 million on a $54 million budget, which at least was better than Pluto Nash's $7 million on a $100 million budget. Berry had her own critical and box office struggles a year later with Catwoman, which was originally slated for Ashley Judd before Berry took over.
Oh yeah. Ha. Black leather. Whip.
In 2008, Berry was considered for the starring role in Wanted, which stemmed from a comic book that used Berry's likeness for the character. However, she lost the role to Angelina Jolie. Berry has since worked steadily, including more X-Men, a Kingsman movie, and John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum, a role she began lobbying for before director Chad Stahelski even had a script.
You do realize that I'm management now, right?
Berry is currently producing a Boomerang series with Lena Waithe and is directing her first feature, Bruised, about a disgraced MMA fighter. When it came to casting the lead for the drama, Berry went with a sure thing, herself.
I will do whatever the hell I want to do.
Reynolds grew up in Vancouver, British Columbia, where he at 14 landed his first acting gig in season 1 of the Nickelodeon teen drama 15. After finishing his arc in 1991, Reynolds booked other TV series and movies throughout the early 90s before deciding to quit acting. However, a friend convinced him to try moving to Los Angeles, where he booked a supporting role in the Sabrina the Teenage Witch TV movie in 1996.
Yeah, maybe it'd be cool.
Reynolds was then offered Xander Harris on the Buffy the Vampire Slayer series, but was not interested in playing a character still in high school, so he passed and Nicholas Brendan got the part. Instead, Reynolds booked his breakout role in Two Guys, a Girl, and a Pizza Place, which ran from 1998 to 2001, and then followed the sitcom with a breakthrough on the big screen as the title role in 2002's National Lampoon's Van Wilder.
I've learned that you can't treat every situation as a life and death matter, because you'll die a lot of times.
Reynolds made his first foray into comic book movies, gaining 25 pounds of muscle to play Hannibal King in 2004's Blade Trinity after Colin Farrell reportedly turned the role down. Reynolds wanted to play The Flash and reportedly came close in 2005, but the movie never materialized. Instead, he booked George Lutz in the Amityville Horror, a role James Van Der Beek turned down.
Well, houses don't kill people.
After a string of mostly romantic comedies like Definitely Maybe and The Proposal, Reynolds debuted Wade Wilson/Deadpool in 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. He then got another shot at playing a superhero when Warner Brothers cast him as the title character in 2011's Green Lantern, a role rumored to have also been offered to Ryan Gosling.
I solemnly swear to pledge allegiance to a lantern that I got from a dying purple alien.
A few years later, Reynolds auditioned for a part in the Coen brothers' Inside Llewyn Davis, but has said he wasn't, quote, high class enough to get cast by the acclaimed filmmaking duo. Reynolds was cast alongside Reese Witherspoon in Tim Burton's 2014 drama Big Eyes, but both dropped out as development lingered, and the movie was eventually made with Amy Adams and Christoph Waltz. Reynolds then turned his focus to correcting Deadpool's botched appearance in X-Men Origins with the character's own movie, which he had developed for more than a decade before, quote, accidentally leaked test footage helped it finally get made in 2016. The foul-mouthed, sarcastic superhero was a hit with audiences, spawning Deadpool 2, with both movies together making more than $1.5 billion at the box office.
And that's why we do it, but mostly the money.
In between the first and second Deadpools, Reynolds was set to star in 2017's Life, but when shooting on The Hitman's Bodyguard went over schedule, he was forced to take a supporting role, and Jake Gyllenhaal stepped in as the lead. Deadpool writers Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick tried to get Reynolds in 2019's Zombieland Double Tap, but he was busy filming Michael Bay's Netflix action movie Six Underground and starring as Detective Pikachu in Pokemon Detective Pikachu.
Okay, that's it. No, we're switching roles. I'm bad cop, you're good cop.
Reynolds was also set at one point to star in the long-in-development video game adaptation Uncharted, but left when director Joe Carnahan departed, and Tom Holland stepped in to play a young Nathan Drake. But have no fear, you'll still have plenty of options to get your Ryan Reynolds fix, from the action comedy Free Guy to Netflix's Red Notice with Gal Gadot and The Rock. And of course, he's also announced a third Deadpool because, you know, Daddy needs to express some more rage.
Okay, guys, let's get out there and make a difference.
Weisz was born in London and began acting in her teens. She was offered King David's daughter opposite Richard Gere in 1985's King David, but her parents made her turn it down. Weisz acted at University of Cambridge and booked her first TV series, The Advocates, in 1992. After more television work, Weisz replaced Mira Sorvino in 1996's Chain Reaction when negotiations broke down and Sorvino left to make Beautiful Girls.
Come on, Eddie! Come on!
Around that time, Weisz was reportedly one of several stars to audition for Titanic, but lost out to Kate Winslet. Not exactly consolation, but she did find another way to be swept from the sea that year. Weisz's biggest breakthrough came a couple years later after writer-director Stephen Sommers saw her in 1998's The Land Girls and cast her as Egyptologist Evelyn Carnahan in 1999's The Mummy.
Anything that scares me, Mr. O'Connell, are your manners.
The following year, Weisz turned down Penny Lane in writer-director Cameron Crowe's Almost Famous, a role that eventually went to Kate Hudson. Weisz was considered for the title character in 2001's Bridget Jones's Diary, but director Sharon Maguire felt she wasn't right, and the part went to Renee Zellweger after Toni Collette passed. Much like those roles, Alicia Nash in 2001's A Beautiful Mind was highly competitive and again saw Weisz in the mix until it landed with Jennifer Connelly, who won an Oscar for the role.
You're still here.
I'm still here.
Weisz instead made The Mummy Returns and About a Boy alongside Hugh Grant and Nicholas Hoult, and then was cast in 2005's Mozart and the Whale with Josh Hartnett, but had to drop out due to scheduling and was replaced by Radha Mitchell. Around that time, Ava Green dropped out of the role of Tessa Quayle in 2005's The Constant Gardener, and Nicole Kidman, Kate Winslet, Naomi Watts, and Sienna Miller auditioned to replace her. But the part went to Weisz and later earned her the Academy Award for Best Performance by an Actress in a Supporting Role.
I owe you a drink.
All right, you can buy me a drink.
Come on.
The following year, Vice was considered for, but not offered, Rosario Dawson's role in Clerks 2, and she and Hugh Jackman replaced Cate Blanchett and Brad Pitt after they pulled out of The Fountain. Vice then dropped out of 2008's Smart People and was replaced by Sarah Jessica Parker, as well as The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, which went to Cate Blanchett. Blanchett also played Lady Marion Loxley in Ridley Scott's 2010 Robin Hood, a role Vice was in contention for after Sienna Miller dropped out and Kate Winslet passed.
Don't be ridiculous.
In the ensuing years, Vice was offered Georgie in Dirt Music during its many years of pre-production, a role that eventually went to Kelly MacDonald, attached to an earlier version of The Danish Girl, which was eventually played by Alicia Vikander, rumored to play Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises, but Anne Hathaway was cast instead, and of course worked with Daniel Craig on 2011's Dreamhouse, and eventually married the James Bond star.
I'll always be with you.
After working on Yorgos Lanthimos' breakthrough, The Lobster, the director brought Vice back for his 2018 movie The Favorite to replace Kate Winslet after she backed out. Vice next stars as Melina Vostokov in Marvel's Black Widow, playing a villain of sorts opposite Scarlett Johansson and Florence Pugh.
You got fat.